Before going to sleep, most of us run through a checklist. We test the deadbolt on the front door, we make sure the stove is off, and we check to see if a loose closet door is fully shut. Psychologists call these safety behaviors. They are habitual actions we perform every day to manufacture a sense of control over our environment. They convince our brains that the room is secure, so our bodies can finally power down. In our story, the protagonist relies heavily on one specific routine. Their bedroom is sparsely furnished, but the closet features a heavy wooden door with old, loose hinges. Every night, without fail, they press it tightly closed before getting into bed. But this presents an interesting vulnerability. If an external force wants to catch you off guard, it doesn't need to break down the front door. It only needs to hijack the exact ritual you rely on to feel safe. The events of this story follow a calculated three-step psychological mechanism. This flowchart represents the architectural phases of the encounter, demonstrating how a simple habit is systematically dismantled across 3 distinct nights. Phase 1 is the breach. On the first night, the protagonist wakes up at 3 a.m. to find the closet door open just an inch. The second night, the exact same thing happens, but the gap is slightly wider, revealing the darkness inside. By keeping the breach minimal, the entity forces the protagonist to look for mundane explanations. They blame the old hinges and the loose latch, deciding to simply press the door harder until it clicks, falling back into the safety of logic. This reliance on logic triggers phase 2, paralyzation. On the third night, the protagonist is already awake at 2:58 a.m. They lie perfectly still as the closet door clicks and moves completely on its own, opening in total silence to reveal a deep darkness. A tall shape steps forward. As it leans into the light, the protagonist sees an exact physical replica of their own face. This relies heavily on the uncanny valley effect. The entity possesses the exact same eyes and features, but the complete lack of breathing, blinking, or micro-expressions renders the familiar deeply terrifying. It smiles, and the unnatural stillness freezes the protagonist in place. The entity speaks, using the protagonist's exact voice. "You didn't close it right." The familiarity of the sound, paired with the accusation, triggers a total cognitive and physical paralysis. The protagonist tries to move, but cannot. Through small, deliberate breaches of the victim's routine, the entity has stripped away their physical agency and mental defenses. Phases 1 and 2 are complete, and the entity has achieved this without ever initiating physical contact. With the victim completely immobilized, the entity initiates phase 3, displacement. The creature points back toward the open closet, forcing the paralyzed protagonist to look directly into the dark space. The interior of the closet reveals a perfectly rendered duplicate of the bedroom. Lying completely frozen on the bed inside is the protagonist's own body. This is a spatial swap. The entity has no need to physically drag a struggling victim out of their bed and into the dark. It simply shifts the dimensional coordinates of the room around them. The entity leans in and confirms the victim's mistake. You left it open. Then, complete darkness. When vision returns, the perspective is highly restricted, looking through narrow wooden slats. The protagonist is now standing inside the closet. They are looking out into their own room, watching their duplicate lying freely on the bed. Before the victim can react, the entity slowly pulls the wooden closet door shut from the outside. By bypassing physical violence entirely and manipulating spatial geometry, the trap executes with absolute efficiency. The victim's reality is stolen, and there is absolutely no sign that a struggle ever took place. The aftermath leaves the protagonist in a chilling state. They are entirely conscious, but physically bound to the dark interior of the closet. They have been repurposed. A new routine dictates their existence. Every night, around 3 a.m., they watch the closet door open slightly. They stand perfectly still, waiting for the gap to widen enough so they can finally step out. This reveals the mechanical nature of the trap. If the protagonist is now the monster waiting in the dark to escape, The entity that originally trapped them was likely just a previous victim, executing the exact same script to win back their freedom. This perpetual engine requires no maintenance. It simply waits for a new occupant to move into the room, relying entirely on their predictable, everyday habits to trigger the sequence all over again, which means pushing a loose closet door completely shut at 3 a.m. might not be an act of keeping the DAC out. You might be keeping a former victim trapped inside.